Hi, Dal from Select Driving School here. Today I want to just do a relatively short video about mirrors. Obviously, mirrors are an extremely important part of driving. If you're not aware of what's going on around you, then it's very difficult for you to be a safe and considerate driver. Explaining to people how to use the mirrors often involves telling them the mechanics. We're going to check the centre mirror and we're going to check the left mirror or the right mirror, depending on what we're planning to do. But trying to get people to fully understand exactly why they're using the mirrors is not always the easiest of tasks. So today what I'm going to do is go on a short drive and I'm going to explain as I'm driving along how I'm using the mirrors, why I'm using the mirrors, and hopefully from this, in the comfort of your own seat, you'll be able to get a better feel for the importance of mirrors and really link the use of the mirrors to staying safe on the roads and also to what's going on around you. So you're going to see the drive ahead and I'll be explaining to you how and when I'm using the mirrors in terms of frequency and what I'm looking for, and maybe some of the things that are prompting me to check the mirrors. Hope you found the video useful. If you do, please click like. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel or visit my website for more information. Thank you. So driving up here, you can see there's some parked cars ahead of me, so I'm already having a look in my centre mirror and my right hand mirror to make sure that I'm not being followed too closely and no one's trying to overtake me. It is clear, so I'm able to go around that parked car safely. Just have a quick check in my right hand mirror just to ensure it is absolutely clear before I move over. Coming up to the roundabout now, again looking in this mirror, centre mirror, right mirror, I'm tending to go ahead, slowing down. Again, I want to know what's going on behind me as I slow. Checking to my right, and I'm able to carry on ahead there. Again, another parked car. Those checks behind me continue to show that it's clear. The more frequently I check, the better idea I have of what's going on behind me. So for example here, I can see that there's no cars in sight for a few hundred metres, basically as far as the eye can see. But I'm still just keeping up those checks just in case things change. Somebody could pull out of a side road and join the road behind me without me realising it if I stop looking in my mirrors. Cyclist ahead, so again, what's going on behind me? A car has actually just turned onto the road. He's about 50-60 metres behind. Looks as though he's travelling faster than me. That's important. I'll have another look now, and yes, he's gaining on me, so I now know I've got a car catching me up. And that's the importance of checking your mirrors more than once. You can then work out the relative speed, and before I get to the roundabout, he has actually caught right up to me. Speed limit on there was 20, but he was going considerably faster than that and caught right up to me quite quickly. At the traffic lights, quick check before I stop, just to be certain again that there's no one too close behind me. So the section of road ahead of me looks relatively straight, but there are a few hazards. So there's a pedestrian crossing. Again, what's going on behind me? Scan the crossing, make sure that there's nobody near it, but the check behind me is important in case I had needed to stop. A large lorry ahead, I know I'm going to need to move around that. I want to check my right hand mirror in particular there to make sure that nobody's thinking of overtaking me as I move around to go past the lorry. As I move back to the left hand lane, checking my left hand mirror to make sure that nobody is trying to undertake me. You have to be really aware of the fact that people will often try and get past you at very short notice, trying to squeeze through the smallest of gaps, especially when you're a learner, because people will see that L plate and think that they need to get past you as soon as they can. Perfectly normal people suddenly become racing drivers when they're faced with a learner in front of them. Coming up to a mini roundabout. Now my plan here is to go around this mini roundabout and come back on myself. It's not an illegal movement, but it has to be done very carefully. We've got the bus coming towards us. Checking my right hand mirror again, make sure nobody's trying to cut inside that roundabout, and then come back on myself. Having to stop here, so again, looking behind me, the bus is now caught up to me, and I'm giving way based on the instructions from the sign. Once these cars come through, I'll be able to set off. Coming up to the traffic lights again, just make sure that no one's too close behind you when you stop, especially if you find that you're having to stop in anything like a sudden manner. The more you can spread your stop, the more warning people behind you get, and the less chance there is of them being caught out. Whilst we're sat here at the lights, again, just keep an eye on your mirrors, just see what develops. We've got a queue forming behind us, but again, we don't know when a cyclist might turn up, and they may try and work their way down the queue. That could become important when you set off, especially if you're thinking of turning, because if they've got alongside you and you've not become aware of that, you're going to potentially turn into them. Travelling up here, we've got quite a wide piece of road, so I would recommend checking the mirrors regularly here, centre and right mirror, because what we do know about people on this sort of road is that they're going to want to try and overtake you. We're going to go for the left-hand lane here, so we just glance into that left-hand mirror to make sure it's clear as we come up to the traffic light queue. Check the mirrors to see how close the person behind me is as we come up, and as we said again, stop nice and steadily so that we're not catching anybody out behind us. Going to be turning left into King Cross, so centre mirror, left mirror, and then somebody opening the door, so just again make sure no one's trying to do anything silly and trying to get around the outside, as you need to move to the right slightly to avoid that lady. Checking the mirrors to make sure that there's no one behind me as I slow down for the pedestrian using the zebra crossing. So we've got a queue ahead of us. Again, just keeping an eye on that outside mirror in particular to make sure that nobody's trying to get past us. You've got to think about human nature in these situations. Quite often, drivers are going to try and get past you, and that's going to be because of their impatience. Quite often, especially again as we go back to the fact that you've got the learning board or learning plates on the car, that does encourage people to get past you. So keeping an eye on that right hand door mirror to make sure you're not being overtaken is particularly important. The next stretch that I'm going to demonstrate to you will show that even more so. So here we're coming down to Parkinson Lane traffic lights. Now this is a point which I point out to a lot of people. A possible fail here is to not anticipate the fact that that bus is pulling in. So we're checking our centre and our right hand door mirror and looking over into the right hand blind spot, doing that early and signalling early to indicate that we're planning to move over. And as we move back again, checking the left hand door mirror this time to make sure that there's nobody on our inside, possibly hidden by the bus as we pulled in. But coming down to that particular set of lights, we know that there's a bus stop just after the lights, so we really should be anticipating if there's a bus in front of us that they're going to stop. And you're expected really to make progress, and making progress would include being able to go past that bus because of the extra lane you have on your right hand side. So don't get too close to the bus. Keep an eye on those mirrors to make sure that you know what's going on behind you, and tell people early that you're wanting to move over and get into the right hand lane to go past the bus. So on this section here, we're now going into a 2-lane road, going around the roundabout, and this is the gyratory roundabout. So here your mirrors are very important. We're sticking inside our lane there, staying in the lane that becomes the left-hand lane, but keeping an eye on our wing mirrors to see if anybody around us is doing that incorrectly. Maybe somebody's going to cut in front of us or cut on the inside of us, because a lot of people will use that roundabout incorrectly. As we come down here, the road's slightly faster moving, so we're getting up towards the speed limit of 40. Again, keeping an eye on that right-hand door mirror to see if there's anybody trying to rush on the outside and maybe try and cut across us and take that turning on the left there. That's a common thing to happen. Here again, looking in that right-hand door mirror, seeing if there's anybody on my outside as I come around that bend. And here I'm looking over into my right-hand blind spot because I know that there's a road comes up from the bottom and there's a van coming up there who's holding back, and he's actually going to pull in behind me. But I wanted to be aware of his whereabouts because he may have been planning to pull in sooner without realising that somebody's coming down the slip road. So again, as we go up here, we're going just below the speed limit. So again, I'm aware of the fact that people may try and cut in late and get in front of me. I think the presence of the police car is getting people to behave a bit better than normal because they're all staying back, but again, that right hand door mirror is coming in handy for me to see if anyone's trying to overtake. You can see a bit of braking ahead, so check my mirrors behind me, see how close the van is. He's a little closer than I'd prefer, so I'm just letting myself drop back a little bit from the police car, making the whole situation a bit safer. If the police car has to stop, I don't have to stop quite suddenly. In fact, when the police car braked just then, I didn't brake because I was just able to ease off my gas, and that gave me enough of a buffer. The van behind me has dropped back a bit now, so all in all in a much better situation. A lot more safety buffer between us. As I say, the more often you check, the more often you can assess what's going on. So as I say, this van behind me now, a couple of checks, and it's revealed to me that he's getting slightly closer, so I know that he's gaining on me a bit. Now he's holding station, he's staying at the same sort of distance as he was before. And I'm going to slow down now to make this left turn, and obviously we're coming down relatively quickly to it, so letting this guy know that we're turning. And in we go.